Well, as we begin the season of Lent, we began last Ash Wednesday. Here we are in the first Sunday of Lent. The readings have us reflect on both the beginning of Jesus' public ministry and his preparation for that, as well as this encounter that Moses had with the people of Israel when he was recalling for them how they were indeed saved and delivered from slavery. And of course, as we ponder on Lent, we know that Lent is the time that we use to prepare ourselves to remember and celebrate Holy Week and ultimately the resurrection of Christ, when death itself was destroyed and we were welcomed into the possibility of heaven. So that is where we're going. And clearly that is the image as well that is seen when Moses delivered the people from the slavery, from their oppression by the Egyptians, from their bondage to that sinfulness. And when they were delivered into the promised land, which for them was a land, an actual land, and for us that promised land is heaven. And so we are reminded that we should be pondering and reflecting on two things. First, what are those things that oppress us, those things that keep us in slavery and bondage to sin? And how can we free ourselves from that? How can we ask the Lord for deliverance from those things that seem impossible for us? And second, how can we draw closer to Christ in these days of preparation so that when the moment comes to recall and celebrate Easter, we may be united with him in that celebration? Well, certainly during this time of Lent, it's very customary and traditional to do different things, to make a sacrifice or to do extra, prayers or almsgiving or different things like that. You have the rice bowl, you have, different things that you give up. Some people give up chocolate, some people give up, drinking wine, or they give up other things that they might like to do. I've seen people give up social media or video games or different things like that. Some of those are a little bit more, I can't believe he's going to do that, But there are different levels of sacrifices that people do of things that they enjoy. And that's really the idea. It's not, you don't want to say, well, I hate broccoli, so I'm going to give up broccoli for Lent. That's nice, but that's not really the point, okay? And so when we talk about giving something up, it's giving something up that you enjoy, that takes time from things that you do, that you go out of your way, if you will, to enjoy that, if that possibility comes up as something that you could do. And so we look at the gospel today and we say, well, we see Jesus, he goes into the desert for 40 days. And after those 40 days, he ate nothing during those 40 days. And after those 40 days, when they were over, he was hungry. And you're like, well, of course. What do you think? That's ridiculous. Of course he's going to be hungry. He didn't eat anything for 40 days. It's probably the first instance that we have of, intermittent fasting, if you will. And Jesus was doing this for 40 days, and there he was, and he was hungry, and the devil comes up to him and tempts him. And of course, people are thinking, well, that's ridiculous. What is the devil thinking, tempting Jesus? He knows who Jesus is. He knows he's the Son of God. How can he tempt him thinking that he's going to win him over? Like, what an idiot the devil is. Well, that's probably true. He is an idiot. He did say no to God, okay? But he also knew who Jesus was as well. And he was hoping, in his own kind of twisted way, that Jesus would do something different than what God had planned. Because that's really what the devil's whole idea, his whole being is based on. It's based on not wanting to accept the plan of God. That's why he told God no. When God said to him, and God the Father said, I'm going to send my son, and he's going to become human, and he's going to save the world, and this is the plan. And the devil said no. He said no. Non serviam. No. And that's when he was cast out from heaven, and then he wandered the earth wondering what he was going to do now. Now he was going to frustrate God's plan. So here he sees Jesus showing up and hungry. Hungry because he had not eaten. And he says, well, look, if you're the Son of God, which he knew he was, make these stones become bread. I mean, bread is good. You're finished your fasting. This is the time that you were planning on eating. So just do this and be good. And Jesus says to him, one does not live on bread alone. Yes, it was tempting, it was attractive. It was something that he wanted. He was hungry. A temptation is precisely that. It's something that is attractive and calls to you, and it may not even be a bad thing, but it's a temptation because it is not the right thing at the right time. And so the devil moves on. He says, okay, how about this? And he says, I have all these kingdoms at my disposal, because it's true. He had, the world was under the domination of sin at the time. That's why Jesus came. And so he says, I have all these things, these kingdoms, these glories, these powers. I'll give them to you, just like the plan says. You're going to come and you're going to become king of the world. You're going to become the ruler of everything. That's the plan, isn't it? So just worship me, and I'll give them to you. That little, just worship me. And Jesus recognizes and calls him out on that and says, no, well, it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve. That is a reminder for us along the way of our Lenten journey is, what is the thing that we put as important? What are those things that we value and we esteem? What are the things that we give priority to in our daily life? When we get up, is the first thing that we do, pray? Or is the first thing we do check our Facebook or Instagram? Or is it check the sports scores or the stock index or check the email or make the coffee? Any of those things can be a good thing by themselves, but what is the thing that we say, I must do this first? Okay, well, if there's a means like, I have to have my coffee first, because then with the coffee I can sit and pray, okay, you can work with that. But if I'm going to check the sports scores for 20 minutes and then freak out because I haven't had breakfast, the kids are getting up, and I haven't had time to pray, and I need to get out the door, that's the problem, because then we've displaced what needed to happen with something that was calling our attention. And there's nothing wrong with sports scores unless your team is losing, but there's nothing wrong with sports scores and looking at them, but the key is everything in its right place, in the right order of importance. And the devil was trying to displace the importance of his kingship by putting it under him rather than under God. And then finally, the devil takes Jesus up to the parapet, to the top of the Temple of Jerusalem. He's like, there you are, way up there. Everybody can see you. The Temple of Jerusalem was in the middle, very imposing temple. I think it was like covered in gold on the top, and you could see it. And frankly, if someone saw a person on the top of the temple, it would probably call their attention. This is not a normal place for a human being to be up there. And he says, yes, and then throw yourself down. And the devil quotes scripture. Look at that. He says, he will command his angels concerning you to guard you. And with their hands, they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone. I mean, we probably wish that the angels would protect us as we walk around the house sometimes, and we dash our foot against a table or a bedpost or something. That's painful. And so God in the Bible talks about how even the angels are going to protect Jesus from these things as he goes around. So the devil's like quoting him and says, no, you can just do this. And imagine the temptation there is that Jesus would be seen and revealed to all of Jerusalem as one that the angels are attending to. They would see the angels rushing to grab him, to hold him. They would, of course, not do this subtly, because angels don't do things with subtleness. They just do them with all the fanfare that they have. And they showed up. And people would look and say, look, the angels, there's Jesus, must be the Messiah. And they would recognize him, and he wouldn't have to do the whole 3 years finding the disciples, wondering what they were going to do, listening to people talk bad about him, getting crucified and died and being buried. He wouldn't have to do any of that. He would have been mission accomplished. Look, the angels came, people saw, I went back. But of course, Jesus knew that that was not the plan. That was not how things were to work. And so he says, you should not put the Lord your God to the test. Don't do things thinking that he's going to come from out of nowhere to save you because you are not following his plan and now he has to fix it. We can't do that. And so Lent is about looking and discerning God's plan. It's about making space for God in our daily life. It is about hungering for that which truly strengthens us and gives us life. And it is about doing things that bring us closer to Jesus Christ along the way. And so as we reflect on how it is that we are entering into this season of Lent, let us ask ourselves, the things that we are disposing and resolving to do during this Lent, are they things that lead us to Christ? Do they give us that hunger for his proximity to us? Do we open our hearts to him? If we do that, then we will be better at the end of these 40 days. We will be closer to him at the end of these 40 days. We have given him the power to strengthen us and give us a new beginning. Just as the resurrection is a new beginning for all of humanity, it is as well each year a chance for us to enter more deeply into that mystery. Let us pray that indeed these days of Lent may not be ones that are squandered, but rather are ones that we take advantage of, this gift that the church gives, that Christ gives, for each of us to draw closer in unity to the love of Christ.